These are all findings that you would see on a CT scan and an MRI scan without requiring an autopsy if he had made it to the emergency room.
I know I said I hit him, but did I really say it as many times as law enforcement's claiming I said it?
The only response that I was personally given was just, I hit him, oh my God, I hit him. So she was within 2 feet of me, but very loud. Any type of follow-up questioning, did you hit him with your hand? Did you kick him? What happened? She just repeated the phrase over and over again, I hit him, I hit him.
Real quick, as I was in the process of providing ventilations, I said, do you know this person?
What did she say to you?
I hit him, I hit him, I hit him.
At that point, I asked her if there had been any significant trauma that happened before this. So she said, I hit him. She repeated it, hysterical. She repeated, I hit him. She repeated it one more time.
Reality is, you have independent, core people who hear her say, I hit him, I hit him. And the attempt is to portray everybody as a liar. But you don't have to rely just on these good people, although you should. You should. You don't have to, because we have a guide, and it's Karen Reed. Slide 17.
So what I said was, I know I said I hit him, but did I really say it as many times as law enforcement's claiming I said it?
Thank you. I know it doesn't fit the theme, the theory, the story, but she tells you herself. She endorses those good people exactly what they had heard. She tells you herself she hit him. It's undeniable, it's unmistakable, it's inconvenient. But the truth has a way of seeping up to the daylight. It can be oppressed and suppressed and pushed down and covered and twisted, but it rises. It rises. And it is not a coincidence. There's no coincidence that Mr. Nuttall and Ms. McLaughlin hear exactly that. She tells you. And Jen McCabe, when she's sitting next to or standing next to Ms. McLaughlin, she tells you that she saw or heard the same thing. Remember what happened to her on the stand when she had the audacity to say, I heard her say it? What happened to her? This woman who never even wanted to leave her home that day, pulled out into a storm to see her best friend dead. What happened when she had the audacity to say that? And now we know that the defendant herself said the same thing. And the funny thing, the ironic thing is, you will see in a photo when Ms. McLaughlin, firefighter, was speaking to the defendant, Ms. McCabe was next to her. Ms. McCabe was trying to protect her, trying to shut her up. Don't talk, you're upset, stop saying crazy things. The villain of the story was trying to help the defendant from incriminating herself. The irony. Is it uncommon in sideswipe pedestrian accidents to see no lower body broken bone?
No, it is not uncommon.
Have you had cases that you've studied or been involved with where you've studied the effect of a sideswipe or a clipping impact where there's an absence of broken bones in the lower body extremities?
Yes.
Is it uncommon in sideswipe pedestrian accidents to see no lower body broken bone?
No, it is not uncommon. What generally differentiates, say, side swipes or clipping contacts compared to, say, an inline impact or, say, a T-bone impact is what refers to that the object that you're hitting isn't accelerated up to the speed of the object that's coming in. So, for example, if I rear end a car, that car will be accelerated up as a result of the contact, and they reach what's called common velocity, and then they separate. And so in a glancing hit, you can have a glancing hit, and you don't have what's called complete momentum transfer. meaning the momentum from the car, because it's a glancing hit, doesn't completely transfer to the object being struck. For example, you can drive down the road at 100 miles an hour and clip the mirror of a parked car, and you'll break the mirror off, but you're not going to go from 100 to 0 instantaneously. You're just going to keep going because you don't have all that momentum transfer. So when you have glancing contacts, you can have much higher speeds without a lot of damage to the car because you're only in momentary contact and it's a glancing type hit.
You mentioned about potential damage to a car. How about potential damage to the pedestrian?
It's the same thing. So when you have a glancing hit to a pedestrian, this is referred to as a fender vault. In this case, they call it a fender. Fenders on the front of cars. There's most pedestrian impacts involve the front of cars. In this case, it would be called a quarter panel vault, which means you're kind of vaulting off the corner of the car. So pedestrian impacts and how you move post-impact are very sensitive to your exact body position. For example, whether your right foot is on the ground or off the ground, whether your left foot is on the ground, off the ground, whether you jump up in response to the crash. Simply raising and lowering your arm changes the amount of rotation that's going to happen. Post-impact motion of the person. So cadavers, crash dummies don't have any muscle reaction. So the motion of a crash dummy is just going to be like you're hitting a dead body, to where people will step, try and regain their balance if possible, will do additional activities that alters where they come to rest. Simply raising and lowering your arm changes the amount of rotation that's going to happen. Post-impact motion of the person. So cadavers, crash dummies don't have any muscle reaction. So the motion of a crash dummy is just going to be like you're hitting a dead body, to where people will step, try and regain their balance if possible, will do additional activities that alters where they come to rest.
Also contained in the report that you at least co-authored, there's an indication that Mr. O'Keefe's injuries, at least to his skull, the fracture to his skull, are consistent with him having been pushed or possibly been impacted by the subject Lexus and fallen backwards, striking his head. Isn't that correct?
Yeah, so that's another possibility. If we're saying that there's enough force if you fall backwards to strike your head and cause that skull fracture, well, he could have slipped and struck his head. The car could have backed up and not known that he was there and nudged him and caused him to fall.
You don't get a free pass. When you engage in conduct that's so inherently dangerous, and you know it's dangerous, and it costs someone their life, that's second-degree murder.
When she came back for the last word, in the darkness, the beginning of the snow, under the influence of alcohol, and decided to stop her Lexus, decided to put it in reverse, decided to accelerate 75% in the exact same direction of where she left him, and then hit him, and he died. That is second-degree murder.
If she back up fast enough to maybe touch him, maybe, but that was not the reason why he fell his back. I think she maybe back up and touch him somehow. Maybe he lost his shoes in this movement and got upset, and then she left and she didn't saw him. And so Either he got out of her way or something, and maybe he lost his shoes in this process. But in my opinion, he definitely went inside, and something happened inside the house.
I do believe that because of the amount of alcohol both of them had, John O'Keefe had more to drink than Karen. Maybe when he left the car, she could back up too fast and touch him, and that could be an explanation for him to lose his shoes or for his phone to fall down and get in pocket state, which was something that the data showed us. But in my opinion, he got up and he went inside the house with or without shoes. I don't know when he lost his shoes eventually, but I don't think he died outside. I think something happened inside the house and he was placed outside.
So I thought, could I have run him over? Did he come and hit the back of my car and I hit him in the knee and he was drunk and passed out and asphyxiated or something? And then when I hired David Yannetti, I asked him those questions the night of January 29th. Like, David, what if, I don't know, what if I ran his foot over? Or what if I clipped him in the knee and he passed out or went to care for himself and he threw up or passed out? And David said, yeah, then you have some element of culpability. Or what if I clipped him in the knee?
Would you say that you were angry with John that night?
Yes. Did I incapacitate him unwittingly, somehow, and then in his drunkenness, passed out? Could I have hit him? Did I run over his foot or hit him in the knee? Did I incapacitate him? I'm okay. I'm not dying, but he's here with me and he's dying.
Look the other way.
Don't look the other way. Look at the facts. Look at the data. And it all leads to one person. There's no grand conspiracy. It leads to one person, the defendant.
Look the other way. Look the other way. 4 words that sum up the hopes of those who have tried to deceive you.
Read.
Maybe she touched him, maybe she backed up a little fast and hit the curb or got too close to him and he had to step away or something. But I don't think her car pushed John O'Keefe to death, that pushed him away and made him hit his head on the floor and kill him.
That's the lead-in. That's the lead-in to this. That's the footage of the lead-in to this. I watched that interview with that juror. I'm to be honest, I'm stunned at what I just saw. Literally like the social media side of this and the blogging side of this and the law tuber side of this just came out of that juror's mouth. I'm actually stunned. I can't believe I just heard.
Do you have an opinion to a reasonable degree of engineering certainty the relative time this backing maneuver occurred with the defendant's Lexus that you just spoke about?
Yes.
And could you share with the jury your opinion to a reasonable degree of engineering certainty?
Sure. It matches the window of the cell phone data for Mr. O'Keefe that puts it in front of 34 Fairview. So the backing event occurred somewhere between 12:32:04 and 12:32:12. So the cell phone data corroborates the text stream timing data in conjunction with the infotainment system data. So we're going to go to 1162-2. So I've highlighted that in yellow. So we're now talking about the second trigger. So this is on the same ignition cycle. It's on ignition cycle 1162. We have that same continuous running clock, but we've now synced it to real world clocks. So instead of the running clock, we now have some information on the real world clock. So at this time, we know the ignition has been on for 19 minutes and 2 seconds. So at the trigger, 19 minutes and 2 seconds. And again, we have 5 seconds either side of that. So between 18 minutes 57.6 seconds to 19 minutes, 7.5 seconds. So again, this is continuous from when the time comes on. I just converted it to minutes and seconds here, so you can see how long it's been on. This is the mileage. These are the speeds over here. And this is some information on how far it traveled.
Dr. Welcher, did you determine how long after the first trigger, that three-point turn, that this second trigger occurred?
Yes, 11.2 occurred about 8 minutes after.
After the three-point turn?
Correct.
Thank you. And now we have a key cycle event different than the three-point turn. What's the number?
So this is now 1162-2. So again, it's technically in the system the same key cycle. I've called it 1162-2.
And the red number next to it to the right?
That's the mileage. So it's actually at the same mileage as 1162-1. So we know, obviously, they're within the same mile. And so this is relative to the start. So 0 is the start. The vehicle goes forward about 34 feet. Then you can see it basically stops in this area here. Then begins to back up and ends up backing a total of 53 back from where it originally started. So if you add 53 to 34, you get 87. So if you look at when the data starts, you can see that the vehicle is actually going 13.67 miles an hour. When the data stops, the vehicle is still going 23 miles an hour. And you can see,
I'm sorry.
you can still and see that it's still at 74% throttle. So, you know, this is 3/4 of full throttle in reverse.
At the end of the 10-second data points at 23.61, can you tell whether or not that speed stayed the same, increased, or decreased?
I mean, considering you're at 74% throttle, it likely increased. How much, I don't know. And you can see that up here, she's on the brake. Down here, she's not on the brake. And so she's not on the brake and at 74% throttle.
And what is the percentage of throttle that has to be initiated to cause a triggering event?
For a shift into rear and a rapid throttle application, it's 30%. That last time step, you're still at 74% throttle, and you have 0 brake application.
Putting the car into reverse and heading back towards John O'Keefe. She intended that act.
How do you go 24 miles in reverse, 75% throttle on accident? Like, how is that not purposeful that she tried to kill him? That makes no sense. I have even less respect for that verdict. I have more respect for guilty on all counts than I do not guilty on murder, but guilty on manslaughter. Like, that makes no sense whatsoever. Just saying.
The second triggering event, 1162-2.
The triggering event was high throttle opening in a transition to reverse. It's a forward motion followed by a higher speed rear motion. And at the end of the trigger event, you're still at 74% throttle.
Do you have an opinion to a reasonable degree of engineering certainty about
Yes.
the entire distance that is captured in that 10-second window of the second triggering event, 1162-2?
So it obviously only captures what's going on during the trigger. It doesn't capture before or after the trigger.
Understood. Do you have an opinion as to just what is captured as far as the distance?
Yes.
And what is your opinion?
That it's 87 feet. So again, the initial forward motion is 34 feet, followed by it backing, crossing the initial point and then backing up an additional 53 feet.
Whether the defendant's Lexus was decelerating, accelerating, or remaining the same at the end of that data captured at the triggering event 1162-2.
It was accelerating at 74% throttle. Matches the window of the cell phone data for Mr. O'Keefe that puts it in front of 34 Fairview. So the backing event occurred somewhere between 12:32:04 and 12:32:12.
Is there any other window you can accommodate with the data you have other than that 10-second window?
Yes.
What's that?
So I was given information about a final lock event on the phone. It's 12:32:09. And so we have the text stream data ending at somewhere between 12:32:04 and 12:32:12, which puts this number right in the middle of that. Basically what we did is we took all the text stream data that we had, which includes the shifting, the forward, the reverse, and the steering. Again, there was a tiny bit of leftward steer, and put that into a simulation program where we're simulating what the Lexus will do. So we've taken into account the mechanical characteristics, the steering response of the Lexus. So this is to show what it represents on the left-hand side. So each one of these little hash marks, a different color, represents 10 feet. The red lines show the extent of motion. Remember what I said, initially pulled forward, then backed up, past its initial spot, and then went backwards further distance. So what this shows is where we simulated this in a program called HVE. So that's the vehicle, the Lexus pulling forward. And then it accelerated in reverse, past its initial starting position. So went all the way forward where it stopped, it then backed up 87 feet. And when the text stream data stopped, it's still moving. It's still moving about 23 miles an hour, and you're still at 74% throttle and 3,300 revolutions per minute on the tachometer, RPM gauge.
This part of your analysis, what pieces of evidence or information did you rely on for the opinions I'm going to ask you?
Relative to the testing on the arm contact on the taillight?
Yes.
So it was the physical evidence at the scene, the photographs of Miss Reed's vehicle, to a certain extent, my analysis of the Ring doorbell and the One Meadows event, Mr. O'Keefe's height, the type of shoes he's wearing, because I need the same type of shoes, my exemplar inspection, where I matched up the heights, the locations of the lacerations, and then the text stream data as well.
That information that you considered, in addition to the text stream data you considered, considering both those areas of information, do you have an opinion to a reasonable degree of engineering certainty in whether the damage to the defendant's Lexus is consistent with a collision with Mr. John O'Keefe on January 29th, 2022 at around 12:32 a.m.?
An impact to the arm. If the impact is basically more than approximately 8 miles an hour, it will likely break the taillight lens. It is consistent with the collision as long as it's greater than approximately 8 miles an hour.
Do you have an opinion whether it's consistent with an impact or collision with Mr. John O'Keefe on January 29, 2022 at around 12:32 a.m.?
With that caveat, yes.
Have an opinion to a reasonable degree of engineering certainty whether John O'Keefe's injuries on his arm, inevitably in the back of his head, are consistent with being struck by a Lexus identical to the defendant's Lexus on January 29, 2022?
Yes.
What's your opinion?
That it is. It is consistent with being struck by a Lexus and ultimately contacting a hard surface such as frozen ground.
And does that specifically pertain to January 29, 2022 around 12:30 a.m.?
Objection, Your Honor.
I'm going to allow that.
Yes, it does. My degrees are in biomedical engineering. The discipline within biomedical engineering that I practice is biomechanics.
So how did his arm get up there?
Because when his arm struck the taillight then cracked, and I see the car driving past him, the taillight could scratch it.
Got it. So he gets hit by the car, not his torso, just the arm. The taillight cracks, and as it passes by, his arm stays with it long enough to get striations, those scratches that you see, those lacerations. I'm sorry, those abrasions that you see, right?
In a sense, yes.
And at the same time, he does a pirouette and flies 30 feet to his final point of rest.
I don't know if he did a pirouette.
Well, I'm using the word pirouette. He spun around.
He started rotating counterclockwise. I don't know how far he ran counterclockwise, but he started rotating. According to that, would push him to rotate counterclockwise. Whether or not he went counterclockwise all the way to his back toward the ground, it seems like a most likely possibility.
Got it.
So it was a classic linear basilar skull fracture.
Is basal skull fracture a
It's
characterization?
basically the base of your skull. So what happens is, you fall backwards, and the linear acceleration starts to take you back down with gravity. The skull hits the ground. It gets, in layman's terms, smashed a little bit. And then the brain moves forward. As it does, your skull, if you were to look inside your skull, it's like mini mountains along your temporal bones and your frontal bones. So the brain is being thrust forward at a fairly good speed, and it's getting bruised. You can think of it as if you took a hammer to your thumb. It's really turning black and blue. Those are the contusions. And so the temporal poles and the frontal poles are getting contusions because of that. The forces, depending on how hard they are, can generate fracture lines all the way to the anterior fossa. Well, as he fell backwards and he struck his head, it was clearly at a very high speed, and then you get a linear force going forward. It drives all the way up the clivus and forward into the anterior fossa where his orbital roofs lay. And this is why people like this get what they call raccoon's eyes.
This laceration on the back of his head was caused by a fall. Could this be caused by a fall landing on hard ground?
Yes, like I said, it's a classic blunt trauma laceration.
Do you have an opinion to a reasonable degree of medical certainty whether this injury, the laceration and the basal fracture, was caused by Mr. O'Keefe falling backwards on the ground?
My opinion is that that's what caused his whole injury. The only way he could get this kind of an injury was to fall backwards, hit the back of his head, and then the resulting, energy forces going into his brain, into his base of his skull.
Would that type of laceration require Mr. O'Keefe to have hit a line type or ridge type object?
A ridge type of object?
Yes.
No, like I said, the tearing of the skin in that fashion, you could look it up, would be just a classic blunt trauma injury.
Have you seen, in your experience, similar types of lacerations and breaks caused by falling on hard ground?
Yes, you can see that both in the occipital region. You can see it if patients fall on their, forehead. The skin tears, they're still bridging, and then they get bruises. Well, the medical term is a coup contre coup injury. So the coup is when you first hit. In this case, it was the back of the head, as summarized by the laceration in the back of the head, and the contusions that the pathologist and the ME found in the back of the brain. And then the brain shifts forward, and as it's traveling at a certain velocity, because it's thrust forward on the floor of the base of the skull, it's getting bumped. And it's getting, again, you can think of it as a hammer hitting a thumb. It's getting black and blue in the areas that are sharpest.
Can this type of injury, the coup contre coup, and what you see in the review of your files, could this type of injury happen from an attack by a weapon, like a bat or a hammer?
Well, he did not have a depressed skull fracture. So any focal hit like that would more likely than not have caused a depressed skull fracture. Blunt trauma the way he had would cause the coup contre coup without a depressed skull fracture.
Isn't it the case with your theory that the tail light would have to break? And after the break, the arm would have to maintain contact with the arm as the car moves.
So that is what happens in pedestrian contacts. There is a contact duration. And that's why you have to allow, if you do testing, the body to move, because the car is going to hit the body. It's going to cause it to move. The body's going to rotate away, and the car is going to continue on in that clipping type impact. So the arm is definitely in contact with the rear of the car for some time. At a point in time, it'll stop contact, but the 6,000-pound vehicle is going to want to continue moving on. It's going to push. It's going to initially contact the arm and then push the arm away as it rotates the body. So yes, it's going to maintain contact until the clipping is over and the vehicle continues on. But we know because of the laws of physics that it has to be some amount of time. It doesn't occur instantaneously. The paint experiment, as you're referring to it, was to look at basically the orientation of the scratches that matched this. So that was an engineering experiment to correlate height, position of the taillight relative to height, orientation of the lacerations on Mr. O'Keefe's arm.
One of the things you looked at was the deputy medical examiner from the Forensic Pathology Investigations Division of the Armed Forces, a person by the name of John C. Walsh. He offered in his report that multiple abrasions ranging in size from 2 to 3 millimeters up to 7 centimeters were documented on the decedent's right arm. These injuries do not photographically appear to be, nor are described as puncture bite wounds, and thus are highly unlikely to be the result of an animal bite attack. The abrasions are non-specific. Abrasions occur as the body moves over a blunt or rough surface such as a skinned knee. Glass from this broken taillight could cause linear abrasions.
Yes, I agree.
I remember there was one piece of metal sort of sticking out.
If they are trying to claim that Officer O'Keefe was run over by this car, there would be evidence of that on his clothing.
Shards of that broken taillight were littered in his sweater.
I did not know that.
When's the first time you learned of that?
Right now.
She said, "What about my taillight? What about my taillight?" And I looked, and there was a piece missing.
I called my father. He didn't answer, and I texted him, "John is dead."
I remember, all right, backing up and hitting something.
My conclusion is there are taillight fragments, a broken glass, lacerations to his arm, and his DNA on the back of the vehicle in the area of the taillight.
Sir, then I'm going to move to strike the DNA part of that answer for obvious reasons.
I'm not going to strike it.
Okay, so you're making assumptions. You're taking what you view to be certain data, and you're coming to a conclusion, but that is based upon circumstantial information, correct? Is that fair?
Are you calling like pieces of the taillight at the scene around his body circumstantial information?
Sir, let me go to the force and go back to the force analysis. Let's go back to the numbers. I want to stay on, if we can, just the calculation. You state the location and orientation of the laceration on John O'Keefe's right forearm and right arm are consistent with the geometry and orientation of the right taillight of the Reed 2021 Lexus LX 570. Where?
Can you read the next sentence?
I'm sorry. Is it C PowerPoint slides 102, 120, correct?
But generally, when the vehicle is clipping or running horizontal across it, it will generally cause horizontal lacerations. But when you have a fractured taillight, you can get pieces going off in other directions. So it's not necessarily going to be perfectly horizontal. So that was matching the physical evidence on his arm to the physical evidence on the car, and then running a test to see if dynamically those matched up.
Did you consider in your analysis any other orientation of Mr. O'Keefe other than the one you selected for your paint test?
Yes.
Did you consider any other locations of Mr. O'Keefe under your theory relative to the back of the SUV?
Sure. In the beginning of this, I started about, hey, it's all over. It could be anywhere on the back of it. Then whittled it down based upon the evidence, started eliminating various hypotheses based upon the evidence, and came to this conclusion, eliminating hypotheses based upon the taillight fragments near his body, the lacerations, his height, the height of the taillight on a Lexus. So it was an iterative process.
Did you mention any of these supposed hypotheses in your direct testimony?
No, because I was able to reject them. I didn't come in here to tell these people what didn't happen. I came in here to tell them what I believe happened.
Where is the documentation for that, sir?
It's in the file. I gave it to you. Some of the slides are some of it.
Other than the January 29, 1162-2, You're not concluding that any of those were collisions, correct?
I didn't look at them. They were so far mileage away from everything.
But you're not concluding, even though they were so far away and you didn't look at them, you don't conclude from the information you have that any of them were a collision, correct?
Yes.
The text stream information doesn't tell you when a collision occurs, does it?
Correct. The text stream does not register crashes at all.
Let's go to 5:07 a.m. on January 29th, 2022 at One Meadows, the home of Mr. O'Keefe.
Yep.
There was a collision between Ms. Reed's 6,000-pound Lexus and Mr. O'Keefe's approximately 4,500 Chevy Traverse. That's undisputed, correct? They collided, they made contact.
They touched.
Right. But the actual collision at One Meadows did not register the recording of an event on the Lexus VCH system, did it?
Correct. Too minor.
However, you want this jury, sir, to conclude that the glancing blow that you contend occurred at 34 Fairview Road by the same 6,000-pound Lexus in contact with a mere 216-pound man did register an event on the Lexus, correct?
No. The impact didn't register the event. As I pointed out, the trigger was from when the accelerator pedal went to 30%. The text stream does not register crashes at all. It registers excessive acceleration, excessive steering, excessive braking, things like that. So the text stream will never register an event, even if you hit a wall at 100 miles an hour necessarily. It'll cause stop codes and things like that. But that's not what it does. The trigger here was transitioning into reverse and then gunning the accelerator pedal in reverse. And so when it went from 30 up to 74% throttle, once it went over 30 in that transition, that's what triggered the text stream.
You were asked about confirmation bias. Remember those questions?
I do.
Can I have slide 33 of your PowerPoint, please? On shift position signal, going forward, then neutral and reverse, does that data suffer from confirmation bias?
No, that's strictly electronic data.
When we look over at the vehicle speed, can we go to the left a little bit? Vehicle speed, ending at 2361 miles per hour, does that suffer from confirmation bias?
No, again, these are direct readings from the vehicle. That is a direct reading from what the speedometer is seeing.
Acceleration at the end of that 10-second window, 74%. Does that suffer from confirmation bias?
No, that's a direct reading of a sensor. That's objective information. Started this case with the hypothesis.
Go ahead, sir. Go ahead.
With the hypothesis that the Lexus didn't contact Mr. O'Keefe. And so I start what's called the null hypothesis, that this didn't happen. And then I look at evidence to either include or exclude the null hypothesis. So theoretically, my confirmational bias starts with a bias that it didn't happen.
But you don't know exactly where the point of impact was.
So within the range of the light and the exact angle of the hand, no, I don't. What I do know is at the rear tail light area.
So your assumption is that that because there's a tail light that is altered, it must have been by Mr. O'Keefe's arm. That's your conclusion, correct?
My conclusion is there are taillight fragments, a broken glass, lacerations to his arm, and his DNA on the back of the vehicle in the area of the taillight.
Sir, then you're going to move to strike the DNA part of that answer for obvious reasons.
Well, it's impossible to know whether he became immediately unconscious, but his injuries were very substantial, and it's more probable than not that at some point he quickly became unconscious and was unable to do functional activities.
If a person does not have functional abilities because they are rendered unconscious, does their body, could it still move?
Yes, this is the interesting thing about our brains.
Would Mr. O'Keefe, in your study and opinion, have died immediately?
No.
Can you show?
Yes, I'll tell you. There is very few things that head injury where you would die, quote, immediately. Traumatic head injuries, you would not die immediately. It's a process. His core temperature was 80 when he was found. 95 is very mild hypothermia. When you get to 82 degrees, you're in severe hypothermia. That you get into multiple organ failure. Your heart starts to have problems. It can have arrhythmias. You're not breathing. Below 80 degrees, you're probably going to die. It's helpful that he had a significant head injury and that he was then found hypothermic. None of the patients we treated died within 5 hours. No, I don't think he died immediately. Neither the hypothermia nor this kind of head injury would kill you immediately in any clinical experience I have.
Someone to make a phone call to 911, even anonymously. Not take responsibility, just to help. And there was only one person in this entire planet who could help him that morning, to give him a chance. Maybe it was a 33% chance if he met the Isaac Wolf of the world. But to give him a chance. And that one person who could help him that morning was this defendant right here, Karen Green. Can someone have a collision without lower body injuries? Could I have slide 19, please? You bet they can. We don't know if this is the body position. We don't know if this is the exact speed, but what it tells us, this is viable. Look at the debris field. Look at his turn. Remember his sneaker on that curb that got lodged against the sneaker? Mr. O'Keefe then falls back, hits his head, counter coup, left to die.
There's no evidence of what he did.
Could a person get their foot caught on a curb, sneaker come off, and then stagger backwards and fall on their head?
Objection, Your Honor.
I'm going to allow that.
Doctor?
Can you answer that?
I mean, I guess you could somehow predict or have a possibility of almost anything happening. You could say someone could get hit by a car and do a couple of somersaults into the yard. I mean, there's no evidence of that, so it's just supposition, but I won't say it's impossible.
Now, you said in your differential diagnosis you considered all evidence. Did you say that on direct examination?
I don't believe I did. I believe I considered evidence for a biomechanical and accident reconstruction analysis in this case.
So you didn't consider phone data?
Has nothing to do with biomechanics or accident reconstruction.
Did you consider Apple Healthcare data?
No, sir.
I'm going to allow it.
Did you consider phone temperature, battery temperature data?
I'm going to allow it.
Has nothing to do with biomechanics, sir.
I'll ask again. Did you consider it?
I did not, no.
You said it would be improper to ignore evidence. Are those your words?
For a biomechanical analysis, yes, sir.
In your studies or your testing, did you determine how Mr. O'Keefe's shoe ended up near the curb?
No, sir. Yes.
Did you understand those are taillight shards matching the defendant's Lexus, the broken taillight?
Yes.
That were recovered from Mr. O'Keefe's sweater or shirt? So you were aware that these samples were consistent with the broken taillight of Ms. Reed's Lexus. Did you know that?
Yes.
Did you do any analysis how these broken taillight shards got into Mr. O'Keefe's clothes?
No, I did not.
He gets hit by the car, not his torso, just the arm. The taillight cracks, and as it passes by, his arm stays with it long enough to get striations, those scratches that you see, those lacerations, those abrasions that you see, right?
In a sense, yes.
Are you aware of that object that was pulled from Mr. O'Keefe's nose? What material that was?
I believe it was glass.
Do you want to know in your assessment about collision where that came from?
Well, I did evaluate that, and it's actually entirely inconsistent with coming from an impact with the vehicle. I believe that's the drinking glass?
A drinking glass. Do you
Yeah.
know where that is in relation to where Mr. O'Keefe was found?
I believe it was found in the vicinity of where he was found.
And could I have Exhibit 195, please? You recognize that?
That is another photograph of the drinking glass, yes, sir.
197A, please. And in your assessment, did you know that a piece of glass that fit the broken drinking glass was found in the street area in front of 34 Fairview Road?
Yes, sir.
Do you know what that is, sir?
It's hard for me to tell from
Does it
back.
look like a drinking straw?
Okay, the black, that does appear to be a drinking straw, yes.
Have you seen that before?
I've seen that photograph before.
And you appreciate that is in front of 34 Fairview Road?
Yes, I believe that's correct.
And sir, in your analysis, in your reconstruction analysis, did you consider the broken glass found near Mr. O'Keefe's body, the suggestion glass is found in his nose, and that glass that fit the broken glass was found on the street. Did you consider all those things in your reconstruction analysis?
Well, by biomechanical analysis, I did consider especially the glass in the nose. Yes.
Seen it before?
Well, I evaluated certainly for my report for this case. I don't know if I'd known about it prior to that.
Is it mentioned anywhere in your report about the piece of glass in Mr. O'Keefe's nose?
No, it's not.
When you received that information, did someone tell you about it? Did you listen? Did you watch? How did you evaluate this evidence?
It might have been in an interview or something that it was pulled from his nose, I believe.
Okay. So you saw and listened to something?
I believe so, or was made aware of it.
You have no information about the angle of Mr. O'Keefe's body at the time the defendant's Lexus was traveling backwards on January 29, 2022, do you?
We have no information that he was even hit by the Lexus, so there wouldn't be any information on the angle if his body wasn't hit.
Consider text stream data. I'll strike it. He is relying on the test stream data, the physical evidence, his independent studies. He is allowed to offer an opinion about whether the injuries are consistent with the damage to the car, whether the damage to the car is consistent with the injury to Mr. O'Keefe, and he's also allowed to answer, in his opinion, the issue of a collision, putting aside the fact that that was emphasized and repeated in the opening statement, and it's going to happen again when other people testify. It's not our fault that ARCA didn't testify or look into the text stream data or they don't have an expert for it. It doesn't belittle or limit that evidence. We expect to ask Dr. Welcher, does he have an opinion to a reasonable degree of engineering certainty whether the defendant's Lexus collided with Mr. O'Keefe on January 29, 2022, around 12:32 a.m. It's not our fault that ARCA didn't testify or look into the text stream data or they don't have an expert for it. It doesn't belittle or limit that evidence.
Oh, I was aware that there was debris in the yard, but again, that has nothing to do with the biomechanical analysis. If you can't prove that the impact happened, then everything after that doesn't actually matter, does it? Because all of that would be from something else. So unless you prove the core issue of this case, the contact, the post-impact movement, the head injury, without proving that, everything else is ancillary to what you're attempting to conclude.
Is there something that could affect its movement after being hit?
Like what?
Like, could its feet be twisted and then hit another object like a curb?
Well, there's going to be very little lateral movement of its feet, but even if it did, then it's still going to fall over right where it is.
Can you continue, please? Can you see the feet, Doctor?
Yes.
Are they twisting?
They are, yes.
Is that because of the rotation of Randy after he struck?
Yeah, that's the rotation of Randy. And again,
being contacted by a vehicle enough to break the light, could it cause a person to stagger backwards?
Is it possible? I can't say it's impossible, but there's no evidence of that.
Could a person get their foot caught on a curb and sneaker come off and then stagger backwards and fall on their head?
I guess you could somehow predict or have a possibility of almost anything happening. You could say someone could get hit by a car and do a couple of somersaults into the yard. I mean, there's no evidence of that. I mean, any event that would cause him to fall backwards obviously would result in him striking his head. So there's numerous, almost infinite possibility of different scenarios that could result in that type of an event. You have to reevaluate if your hypothesis or what you think happened is actually true or not. And that's what experts do. That's how you perform an analysis, and that's what's important. You know, I have 3 kids. I have a 9-year-old who's actually.
So I'm going to ask you to wait for the next question.
Okay, sure.
Was there an example that you could use of sort of a real world example that you might want to use to explain some or part of the scientific method?
There is, yeah, and I would like to explain an example of what's important with that. So I was going to say I have 3 kids, a 9-year-old who's actually turning 10 today. Happy birthday, Kai. And I have 2 older ones.
All right. We're going to stop this. Another example.
Go ahead.
Canine DNA, are you aware that the results of that were that there was no canine DNA on Mr. O'Keefe, on swabbings that were sent to the UC Davis lab?
I'm going to allow it.
Yes, but there was clothing in between.
Okay, but the swabbings came from the clothing with tears in the clothing in the same area as the injuries, correct?
Okay.
Do you know that or no?
I couldn't tell if they came from the wound or the clothing. I thought that they came from the clothing, but
You couldn't tell by reviewing the report whether or not swabbings came from clothing or from Mr. O'Keefe's body?
I know the clothing was sent to the laboratory.
You are aware that that came back as far as negative for any canine DNA, correct?
That's correct.
The group also hoping to clear up rumors regarding the Alberts dog, Chloe, who had been rehomed after the incident. The defense claimed the dog was involved in O'Keefe's death.
Those wounds were inflicted as the result of a dog attack. Those marks are from teeth.
They've known for 2 years where Chloe is. The state shared it with them.
So if they wanted to take DNA evidence from Chloe the dog and match it to possible DNA evidence on John O'Keefe, they could have matched it.
Absolutely.
Did you ever discuss going to see Chloe and doing these studies on Chloe so you could see if they were dissimilar to these abrasions?
I was asked to evaluate the wounds.
Do you know that Chloe exists, that we provided notice to you, that we went up and saw Chloe and took molds? Did you know that?
Objection, Your Honor.
Did you know that? Going to allow it. Did you know that, Doctor?
I do know that now.
Now that you know that Chloe's available, wouldn't those molds be helpful? Wouldn't you want to look at them and compare them to the distances on the abrasions on Mr. O'Keefe's arm?
Objection, Your Honor.
I don't think it's necessary for many reasons.
Okay, doctor, what are your thoughts about taking a look at the dog molds? Is that something that would be done normally?
Certainly, yes. If it certainly, absolutely want to take teeth impressions and to determine if the teeth are consistent with the wounds on the victim. For this expert says it's not necessary, it leaves me confused. You have to look at as much evidence as possible to come to any definitive conclusion, including DNA evidence.
Defense attorney Alan Jackson says whatever the mouth mold shows, jurors at Reed's second trial will never see it.
That's exactly what is not admissible in a court of law. Exactly what is not admissible.
A person is impacted by a vehicle, it can result in a variety of different injuries or no injury at all.
Correct.
There's a number of dynamic factors involved that are very difficult to assess and predict, correct?
Correct.
And in this case, you did not do any accident reconstruction to try to identify the details of the mechanism of injury to John O'Keefe, did you?
I did not do accident reconstruction.
And so, having not done accident reconstruction, would you agree it's fair to say that you are not in an informed position to give an opinion as to how the injuries could or would have happened in this case?
I disagree.
Specifically, you were asked questions about the impact or collision in this case. How fast was the defendant's Lexus traveling when there may have been an impact in this case?
I understand possibly 24 miles an hour.
Who picked that number?
I have no idea.
Well, you heard it from somewhere and you've just given an opinion on it. Where's that number committed to or derived from?
I don't know.
Well, if you're going to give an opinion based on what you're portraying as facts to this jury, you should have some certainty about the source of your material, shouldn't you? And so you think you can give an opinion about the extent of injuries, even though you are agreeing, not only you're not an accident reconstruction expert, you have no idea about the details of the collision in this case, Dr. Russell.
Mr.
Is
Brennan,
that true?
I have no details about the collision.
About what happened during the collision. You have no details about the body movement, the placement, the speed. You don't have any details that you know of other than what was told to you, correct?
Objection, Your Honor. Sustained.
There are dozens, hundreds, thousands of motor vehicle accidents in which there are no lower body brakes. Fair to say?
Probably, yes.
I thought her direct went well. I thought she did a great job. I thought she had a great resume. I thought that she explained how this was very likely a dog bite. And at the end of direct, I was like, it feels like if this was a criminal trial and the dog was the perp, that maybe this would be enough to prove beyond a reasonable doubt this was a dog bite.
Do you think I hit him? Do you think I hit him? And I said, no, I don't think you hit him. I think you probably hit something.
There were scratches on the bumper as well as apparent pieces of glass.
As if any witness that's an expert that was not there and seeing it can say anything with 100% certainty. That's just not going to happen.
Well, it didn't hit him, so it doesn't matter. It didn't hit him. It did not hit him. It did not hit him. So it was not relevant to my opinion.
So she was just, again, to me, Russell and her were just dynamite. I mean, really, really dynamite. And so, again, and of course she said, there's no evidence. She does not believe it was hit by a car. So
she said more than that, right? She's like, well, it didn't happen. And we'll get the cross. But
right.
Did you think there were times where, because I felt like she and maybe Rentschler felt the most like they were willing to go to bat for the defendant. Were they a hired gun? They were not going to give the Commonwealth an inch. They were going to push back. These last two really felt like we got to prove Karen Reed's innocent. It almost felt like they had a little bit more of that push. Did you get that vibe from these witnesses? And if you did it bother you?
I really didn't.
Okay.
And I tell you why. I felt she was very common. I felt she came across as not being slick, as not being, yes. I thought she gave nice, common answers. She's the kind of person that you probably would like as a doctor, and so I thought that she did a fabulous job of presenting herself.
He has no injuries on him that are consistent with being hit by the back of the SUV. That includes the spoiler, that includes the bumper.
Okay, if we could play video E, please. I want to ask you, Dr. Laposada, have you seen this video before?
No.
Thank you. You can take that down. Did you see anything in that video that would suggest any contact between that mannequin and the vehicle's bumper?
I'm going to see you at sidebar on this for just a minute, please.
Closest I must have said was, did I hit him? I know I said I hit him, but did I really say it as many times as law enforcement's claiming I said it?
Other than this case, there was never ever a time in your career where you were presented with a photo and asked to give an opinion whether the mechanism of injury was a dog bite, other than this case.
That's correct.
You do not have experience over your long, accomplished career in the effort of pattern recognition and analysis of dog bite wounds. Isn't that fair to say?
Okay.
You've never engaged in any type of opinion looking at photographs and then had that opinion peer reviewed by other dog bite experts, have you?
No.
Do you have any experience in veterinarian medicine?
I'm aware of it. That's my experience.
Do you have any accomplishments like degrees?
No.
You believe that you are uniquely qualified to look at a photograph and give an opinion about the source of the injury.
I'm not uniquely qualified.
Dr. Russell, from your perspective, as far as you know, you were the only person in the entire United States of America who was qualified to look at a photograph and make a determination whether the wound was derived from a dog bite.
No, I don't know of any other physicians that can do that.
Do you recognize anybody other than yourself who has this very particular expertise to be able to do this kind of work?
I'm not aware of anyone.
Suffice to say, you've never taken a class in the forensic analysis of dog bites.
I don't think any class exists.
And so when you're telling us you can identify that he immediately died or died within 15 minutes, I'm asking you for objective criteria, for you to give that opinion I'm asking you what objective information you have. And so you said that there was a large amount of force, correct?
Sure, but because there were massive skull fractures.
Would Mr. O'Keefe, in your study and opinion, have died immediately?
No. There is very few things that head injury where you would die, quote, immediately. Traumatic head injuries, you would not die immediately. It's a process.
Are you an active working neurosurgeon?
I am a very active working neurosurgeon. I get up every day at 4:30 in the morning to go to work, 5 days a week. I take call 300 days out of 365 days a year.
Did you work yesterday?
Yes, I did.
What type of work did you do yesterday?
I did 2 brain surgeries yesterday.
Are you working tomorrow?
I have 4 surgeries scheduled for tomorrow, which is why this is a little bit delayed for me, and I have 4 on Friday.
And what type of surgeries do you have tomorrow and Friday?
I have 3 brain tumors, 1 trigeminal neuralgia, and on Friday I have 4 patients with movement disorders.
You're here today as a witness. How much of your practice, how much percent of your income is from being a consultant or a witness for a case?
Probably less than 1%. I don't do this for a living.
Yes, I started an independent consulting practice.
How much of your business is consulting?
It's a consulting practice.
Yep. How much of your business, how much of your income is
100%.
consulting?
To Yale Medical School, I graduated summa cum laude.
Was that in 1981 that you graduated?
Correct.
After medical school, did you begin internships in medical residency?
I did an internship at Hennepin County Medical Center, which is a trauma center in Minneapolis. I then did 5 years of neurosurgical residency at the University of Minnesota.
Something about that hospital that has some specialty?
It was one of the #1 training centers for chairmen in neurosurgery at the time.
Did you, in your residency and your fellowships, do any work or study in pathology?
During your residency as a neurosurgical resident, you do 6 months in neurology, you do 3 months of neuroradiology, you do 3 months in pathology, which includes autopsies on brains. And then you do rotations through a trauma center as a chief resident, through a VA hospital, and then ultimately at the university hospital for elective cases. We also do 6 months of pediatric neurosurgical residency.
Did you do a fellowship at New York University?
Yeah, at NYU, I did a fellowship before I went to the University of Maryland as a professor in brain transplantation. The interest was in using cells to create dopamine centers in rat brains with the concept of Parkinson's being curable with transplantation.
I couldn't serve the people of Rhode Island well, so I resigned.
Did you resign shortly after the audits and criticism?
No.
Same year?
Oh, I don't even remember.
Look the other way.
Don't look the other way. Look at the facts. Look at the data. And it all leads to one person. There's no grand conspiracy. It leads to one person, the defendant.
Look the other way. Look the other way. 4 words that sum up the hopes of those who have tried to deceive you.
Read. Sunlight is the best disinfectant. That's been our mantra for 3 years.
So what I said was, did I always said I didn't, but did I really say this many times as law enforcement is bleeding and said it?
Thank you. I know it doesn't fit the theme, the theory, the story, but she tells you herself. She endorses those good people exactly what they had heard. She tells you herself she hit him. It's undeniable, it's unmistakable, it's inconvenient. But the truth has a way of seeping up to the daylight. It can be oppressed and suppressed and pushed down and covered and twisted, but it rises. It rises.